Baseball is known for its inspiring stories of talent and perseverance, but some MLB players had to survive the streets before making it to the big leagues. There's Tony Terrasco, who grew up as a gang member. Similarly, Kevin Mitchell, a World Series champion, had a history of gang connections and a reputation for explosive behavior. And then there's Lenny Dickstra, whose post-baseball life spiraled into crime. Here are 15 MLB players with shocking gang connections. Tony Terrasco. Before Tony Terrasco became an MLB player, his life was shaped by something far more dangerous: gang culture. He wasn't just a kid growing up in a rough neighborhood, he was fully entrenched in the world of the Santa Monica graveyard Crips. And in the early 1980s, that meant walking a tightrope between survival and self-destruction. His parents had moved him from the Bronx to Santa Monica, hoping for a better future. But what they didn't know was that Santa Monica was in the middle of a gang war. At just 13, Tony was already running with the graveyard Crips. He admitted anyone from his neighborhood would get into the gang. However, unlike hardened gang enforcers, Tony wasn't one to carry out violent acts. "I was never a soldier in the gang," he told the New York Times. "Soldiers do everything. I was just trying to make a few bucks and dress nice for the girls." But that didn't mean he was safe. 6 of his close friends were killed in gang violence. One of them, Chris Pickett, was shot dead by police when he was just 22. Tony got a tattoo that reads, "In memory of CP," on his left shoulder blade, and another tattoo for Pickett on his left forearm. Tony had several close calls himself. One night, he narrowly escaped a drive-by shooting simply because he was in the bathroom when bullets sprayed the street outside. That was the reality of his world. But there was one thing that set him apart: baseball. Even in the streets, people saw his potential. Gang members who had no way out of the life recognized that Tony did. Therefore, they pushed him toward the sport. He recalled how they told him to forget about wearing the blue and quit the Crips, and at 16, he listened. He chose baseball over the gang. It was the right move. By 1988, the Atlanta Braves drafted him straight out of high school. Over the years, he played for teams like the Orioles and the Mets, even making history in the infamous Jeffrey Meyer incident during the 1996 ALCS. His best season came in 2002 when he posted a 109 OPS+, proving he belonged in the league. After retiring, Tony stayed in the game, becoming a coach and mentor. Today, he works at Great Oak High School in Temecula, teaching the next generation. His story is a rare one. Most kids in gangs don't make it out of street gangs, but Tony did. And just like him, another baseball legend had early ties to gang life before stepping onto the diamond: Jackie Robinson. Renowned for breaking Major League Baseball's color barrier, Jackie Robinson led a life marked by resilience and determination. Born into a family of sharecroppers in Georgia, he faced early adversity when his father left, prompting his mother to relocate the family to Pasadena, California in 1922. Despite Pasadena's affluence, the Robinson family lived in poverty, and Jackie, along with other minority youths, found themselves excluded from the organized activities available to their white peers. This exclusion led Robinson to join the Pepper Street Gang, engaging in minor mischief, such as stealing fruit and golf balls. A turning point came when a local reverend took an interest in Robinson, guiding him away from delinquency. Robinson's athletic prowess soon became evident. At UCLA, he became the first student to letter in 4 sports: baseball, basketball, football, and track. His exceptional abilities led ESPN writer Howard Bryant to remark, "You could make an argument that Jackie Robinson was the greatest athlete in American history." Robinson's journey was fraught with challenges. During his military service in World War II, he faced a court-martial after refusing to move to the back of an army bus, an act of defiance against racial segregation. He was ultimately acquitted and honorably discharged in 1944. Recently, discussions have emerged regarding the omission of Robinson's military service from official narratives. The U.S. Department of Defense temporarily removed a webpage dedicated to his military career amid a broader initiative to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion content from its platforms. The action sparked outrage, with critics arguing that such omissions diminish the recognition of Robinson's full contributions to American history. The page was later reinstated following public backlashes. Today, Jackie Robinson Day, celebrated on April 15th, honors his impact on baseball and racial equality. The next individual is another former MLB player who made headlines for several crimes: Esteban Loiza. As a former MLB All-Star, Loiza had once dominated the mound, playing for teams like the Yankees, Blue Jays, and White Sox. But years after his retirement, his name wasn't making headlines for pitching. It was tied to something else: drug trafficking. In February 2018, authorities in San Diego made a stunning discovery. Hidden inside a home just steps away from a school, police found over 44 pounds of cocaine, worth millions, on the street. The drugs were traced back to Loiza, who was quickly arrested and charged with multiple felonies felonies, including possession and intent to sell. The large quantity of narcotics led many to believe that Loiza was probably working with a cartel. Well, there's no solid proof linking him to a cartel, but the circumstances surrounding his arrest made the speculation impossible to ignore. Former athletes struggling after retirement is nothing new, but Loiza's downfall was extreme. How does a man who once earned over $40 million in his career end up trafficking cocaine in bulk? His past also raised some eyebrows. Over a decade before his drug arrest, Loiza was caught speeding at 120 mph in his Ferrari and failed a sobriety test. At the time, it seemed like reckless behavior, but in hindsight, some wonder if it was a glimpse into a darker side of his life. When the news of his arrest broke, reactions ranged from disbelief to outright mockery. Some fans reminisced about his time in baseball, while others couldn't resist pointing out the irony. How had a former Cy Young runner-up fallen so far? Despite facing a potential life sentence, Loiza struck a plea deal and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. He was released in 2021 and deported to Mexico. Though the truth about his possible link to a drug cartel cannot be ascertained, his name has been linked to one of the most bizarre post-career scandals in sports history. Like Loiza, the next player also found himself entangled in the world of drugs after his baseball career ended. Willie Aikens. Once celebrated for his powerful swing and clutch performances, particularly during the 1980 World Series with the Kansas City Royals, Willie Aikens saw his promising baseball career overshadowed by a descent into the world of narcotics. In the early 1990s, Aikens grappled with a severe cocaine addiction. By his own admission, he was a frequent user from 1991 to 1994, a period during which his involvement with the drug deepened beyond personal use. The Kansas City Police Department, acting on a tip from a former associate, placed his residence under surveillance in December 1993. They observed a pattern of brief visits by numerous individuals, a hallmark of drug distribution activities. The situation escalated when undercover officer Ginger Locke approached Aikens at his home. Over several weeks, Locke cultivated a rapport with him, culminating on January 18, 1994, when she inquired about purchasing an 8-ball, approximately 3.5 grams, of cocaine. Aikens not only facilitated the sale, but also demonstrated the process of converting powder cocaine into crack, a method commonly associated with street-level drug operations. Subsequent transactions followed a similar pattern, with Aikens procuring cocaine from suppliers, converting it to crack, and selling it to Locke. In total, he sold about 2.2 ounces, 62 grams, of crack cocaine to the undercover officer. These activities led to his arrest on March 2, 1994, and subsequent indictment on multiple counts of crack cocaine distribution and firearm possession during a drug trafficking offense. The presence of a loaded firearm during these transactions further intensified suspicions of his involvement with organized drug networks, as such associations often necessitated protection and enforcement measures. In December 1994, Aikens received a sentence of over 20 years in federal prison. As for the next player, his troubles began with smuggling charges that derailed his reputation and delayed his rightful place in baseball history. Orlando Sepeda. Affectionately known as the Baby Bull, Orlando Sepeda was a formidable force in Major League Baseball. His powerful presence at the plate and consistent performance earned him 11 All-Star selections and the National League MVP award in 1967. However, beyond the accolades and roaring crowds, Sepeda's life took tumultuous turns that led to legal troubles and cast shadows over his illustrious career. In 1975, a year after hanging up his cleats, Sepeda's post-baseball journey took a dark detour. During a trip to Colombia to conduct a baseball clinic, he became entangled with individuals who persuaded him to transport packages containing marijuana back to Puerto Rico. Unaware of the full extent of his cargo, approximately 170 pounds, Sepeda's attempt to retrieve the shipment led to his arrest and subsequent conviction for drug possession and importation. This ordeal resulted in a 5-year sentence, of which he served 10 months in prison, with the remainder on probation. The conviction severely tarnished Sepeda's once sterling reputation in Puerto Rico. Opportunities within the sport dwindled, and his path to the Baseball Hall of Fame seemed obstructed by his off-field transgressions. Despite his impressive statistics, a .297 batting average, 379 home runs, and 1,365 RBIs, the character clause in Hall of Fame considerations posed a significant barrier. However, time and redemption played their parts. Sepeda dedicated himself to community service and worked diligently to rebuild his image. His efforts did not go unnoticed. In 1999, the Veterans Committee recognized both his athletic achievements and personal rehabilitation, granting him induction into the Baseball Hall of Fame. While Sepeda eventually found redemption after his legal troubles, the next player faced the consequences of gang involvement. Alex Cole. Drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals in 1985, Cole's speed and agility made him a standout leadoff hitter. His major league debut with the Cleveland Indians on July 27, 1990 was nothing short of electrifying. In just 63 games, he boasted a .300 batting average and stole an impressive 40 bases. Fans were captivated by his performance and his distinctive on-field appearance, often sporting motorcycle goggles that became his trademark. However, as his baseball career progressed, Cole's performance began to wane. He became a journeyman, playing for teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates, Colorado Rockies, Minnesota Twins, and Boston Red Sox. Off the field, Cole's life took a troubling turn. On August 9, 2001, while playing for the independent Bridgeport Bluefish, federal agents arrested him in a drug sting operation. Charged with conspiring to possess heroin with intent to distribute, Cole pleaded guilty in June 2002 and was subsequently sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. Beyond that, the severity of his charges led many to speculate about potential affiliations with drug gangs, though no concrete evidence has surfaced to confirm such ties. Tragically, Alex Cole passed away on August 18, 2023, at the age of 58. Just like Cole, the next player also had his troubled past follow him beyond the game. Milton Bradley. From an early age, Milton Bradley was forced to navigate two conflicting worlds. He was a rising baseball star, playing on mostly white teams, but back in his neighborhood, that made him a target. Gang members saw him as a traitor, someone who was turning his back on them in pursuit of a dream they didn't respect. Twice, they jumped and beat him, obviously to send the message out that he wasn't one of them anymore. But Bradley's story suggests he wasn't always an outsider. If gangs were punishing him for leaving, it raises the question, was he ever involved in the first place? Many who try to escape gang life face similar consequences. Some make it out. Others get pulled back in. Bradley refused to quit baseball, and by 1996, he was drafted by the Montreal Expos. Over the next decade, he played for teams like the Cleveland Indians, Los Angeles Dodgers, Oakland Athletics, Texas Rangers, and Chicago Cubs. On the field, his raw talent was undeniable, but his fiery temper often made headlines. He had public outbursts, clashes with teammates, and heated arguments with umpires. Some saw it as passion, others saw it as a man constantly on edge, always ready for a fight. The rejection from both sides hardened him. From that point on, I've always felt on the outside, he once admitted. Off the field, his life became worse. In 2013, he was convicted on multiple counts of domestic violence against his wife, Monique, after a series of disturbing incidents, choking her, throwing objects, and making violent threats. He was sentenced to 32 months in prison. Then, tragedy struck. Months later, Monique passed away at just 33 years old. Though her death was unrelated to Bradley's abuse, it cast a dark shadow over his already crumbling life. Whether Bradley was an active member or just someone who got too close, one thing is certain. Violence followed him, both on and off the field. Although Bradley's past haunted him, the next player turned a prison sentence into a stepping stone for success. Ronald Laflur. Before Ron Laflur became a Major League Baseball star, he was running the streets of Detroit, stealing, using heroin, and living life on the edge. His story wasn't one of privilege or early baseball success. It was about survival in a city overrun with crime and gangs. Detroit in the 1960s and 70s was a battleground. Gangs controlled entire neighborhoods, drug addiction was rampant, and young men like Laflur had limited options. If you weren't part of a crew, life was even more dangerous. Laflur didn't just grow up around crime. He lived it. He dropped out of school, broke into the Stroh's brewery to steal beer, and became addicted to the thrill of getting away with theft. In his autobiography, Breakout, From Prison to the Big Leagues, he admitted, "Sometimes I would steal for the thrill of it. I got away with so much stuff that I began to believe I couldn't get caught. Usually, everything I did was right out in the open too. I thought I was the invisible man, but the streets don't let anyone stay invisible forever." In 1970, at just 20 years old, Laflur was arrested for armed robbery and sentenced to 15 years in prison. For most people, that would have been the end of the road. But fate had other plans. While locked up in Jackson State Prison, a guard noticed Lafleur's speed and raw athletic ability. That guard helped organize a prison baseball league, giving Laflur his first real shot at the sport. His skills were undeniable, and word spread fast. Detroit Tigers manager Billy Martin even visited the prison to see him play. What happened next was unheard of. The Tigers arranged for Lafleur's early release, and by 1974, he was playing center field in the major leagues. Lafleur's rise from a Detroit gang-influenced lifestyle to baseball stardom is one of the most shocking redemption stories in sports. But while he escaped prison, he couldn't outrun his past. Addiction, legal troubles, and financial struggles haunted him long after his baseball career ended. For Laflur, the streets of Detroit shaped him, but they never truly let him go. The next player also has his life shaped by a troubled past. Ralph Schwam. Ralph had the talent to become a Major League Baseball star, but his life took a dark and violent turn. Instead of making a name for himself on the pitcher's mound, he became known for his ties to the underworld, particularly to infamous Los Angeles mobster Mickey Cohen. Ralph's name wasn't just whispered in baseball circles, it was also spoken in the criminal underworld. During his time as a minor league pitcher with the Little Rock Travelers in 1949, he found himself entangled in a world of crime. The connection to Cohen wasn't just speculation. Ralph was reportedly under his influence, running with criminals and getting involved in a string of robberies. Then came the crime that ended his baseball career for good. On October 12, 1949, Ralph and his friend Ted Gardner set out to rob Long Beach dentist Donald Buge, but things escalated and the robbery turned into a brutal murder. The next thing, the two men were arrested. A jury found them guilty, and Judge Charles W. Fricker sentenced them to life in prison. Just like that, Schwam's promising future was gone. But prison didn't completely erase his baseball talent. While serving his sentence, Ralph continued playing the game behind bars. Even as he sat in a cell, his fastball was still legendary. After spending over a decade in prison, Ralph was unexpectedly paroled in 1960 at the age of 34. It wasn't the freedom most lifers got, but then again, Ralph wasn't just anyone. Determined to reclaim his baseball career, he pitched for the Hawaii Islanders in the Pacific Coast League, but the dream didn't last. He played just 6 games, ending with a 1-2 record before his time in the sport was over for good. Even after his release, his name remained tied to his mob connections and his violent history until his death in 1989. While Ralph found a second chance after prison but failed to reclaim his former glory, the next player fought for his right to play but ultimately met a tragic end. Edwin Pitts. Beyond being a baseball player, Pitts was a man who lived on both sides of the law. Before he ever stepped onto a professional field, he was serving time in Sing Sing prison for armed robbery. His 6-year sentence wasn't just the result of a petty crime, it was the kind of offense that suggested deeper connections to the criminal underworld. Pitts didn't just land in prison by chance. In the 1920s and 1930s, New York was filled with street gangs, and many young men found themselves drawn into crime just to survive. Whether Pitts was an official gang member or just deeply embedded in that lifestyle, it's certain that his past wasn't clean. While serving time, Pitts made a name for himself in the prison baseball league. His skills caught the attention of Hall of Famer Johnny Evers, who believed in giving him a second chance. In 1935, after his release, Evers offered Pitts a $200 a month contract to play for the Albany Senators. But not everyone believed he deserved redemption. But baseball's leadership refused to let an ex-convict play, believing his past was too dangerous to ignore. Pitts fought back, appealing to MLB Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis. After a week of deliberation, Landis overturned the ban, giving Pitts his shot at redemption. He played for various minor league teams over 5 years, and his dramatic story even inspired 2 films, The $1 Billion Scandal and Over the Wall. But his past never truly let go. In June 1941, he was fatally stabbed in a tavern, ending his life in violence. Undoubtedly, his story ended the same way it began, on the streets, surrounded by crime. While Pitts fought against a system that initially denied him a second chance, the next player had every opportunity for success but lost it all due to a shocking crime. Ugueth Urbina. Ugueth Urbina was a dominant force in Major League Baseball, known for his blazing fastball and fierce presence on the mound. In 1999, he led the National League with 41 saves and played a pivotal role in the Florida Marlins' 2003 World Series victory. But his celebrated career took a shocking turn in 2005 when he was arrested and later convicted of attempted murder in Venezuela. The incident occurred on October 16, 2005 at Urbina's family ranch. Authorities reported that Urbina, alongside a group of men, attacked 5 workers, accusing them of theft. The assault involved machetes, and there were attempts to set the victims on fire using gasoline. The victims sustained severe injuries, including deep lacerations and burns. Despite Urbina's claims of innocence, the court found him guilty, sentencing him to 14 years and 7 months in prison. He served just over 7 years before being released on December 24, 2012. While Urbina's violent actions are well documented, there is no credible evidence linking him to gang affiliation. His criminal activities, though severe, appear to be isolated incidents rather than indicative of membership in any organized gang. Discussions among baseball fans reflect a mix of admiration for his on-field prowess and disappointment over his off-field conduct. On the Red Sox subreddit, a user, Scott Miller 9721, stated how the all-star player attacked his farmhands with a machete and tried to light them on fire. Urbina's post-baseball life might have been marred by serious criminal behavior. There is no substantiated evidence to suggest that he was ever affiliated with a gang. While Urbina Urbina saw his career collapse after a violent attack led to his conviction, there is another player who found himself entangled with criminals, steering his life away from baseball. Daryl Dent. Daryl Dent was once a rising baseball star, celebrated for his exceptional speed on the field. His baseball card for the Bowie Bay Sox, a minor league team in the Baltimore Orioles organization, proudly highlighted his agility, one of the fastest players in the Baltimore system. His impressive stats backed it up: 24 stolen bases in 1999 and a career success rate of 77%. However, Dent's life took a dark turn. In November 2011, he met Keith "Green Eyes" Walton at a wake. Walton, a felon with multiple convictions, including a robbery with a firearm at age 18, had a history steeped in violence. Both his first wife and step-brother were victims of gang-related shootings. This association marked a pivotal shift in Dent's trajectory. Together, Dent and Walton orchestrated a series of crimes, starting with burglaries of cell phone stores between November 2012 and May 2013. Their method involved nocturnal break-ins through air vents or walls, targeting numerous stores across the Los Angeles area. Eventually, both were arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit burglary. Walton served jail time, while Dent received probation. Undeterred, the duo escalated their criminal endeavors to high-end watch heists, executing one of the most sophisticated and lucrative smash-and-grab sprees in U.S. history, netting approximately $6 million worth of luxury timepieces. While there is no definitive evidence confirming Dent's formal membership in a gang, his close partnership with Walton, a known gang affiliate, suggests a deep entanglement in gang-related activities. Dent might have found himself entangled with criminals, but the next player saw his post-baseball life spiral into fraud, theft, and multiple arrests. Lenny Dickstra. Once a fearless leadoff hitter nicknamed Nails for his relentless style, Dickstra had the world at his feet. A three-time All-Star and a World Series champion with the 1986 New York Mets, he became known as a financial guru after retiring from baseball. But behind the scenes, his life was spiraling into crime, fraud, and scandal, ultimately leading to speculation about his connections to criminal organizations. In 2011, Dickstra's troubles escalated when he was arrested on 25 charges, including grand theft auto, identity theft, and drug possession. He initially pleaded not guilty, but later admitted to grand theft auto and filing false financial statements in a plea deal that dropped his drug charges. However, his attempt to back out of the deal failed, and he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. During this time, he was also charged with indecent exposure for allegedly luring women under false job offers, resulting in another 9 months behind bars. Dickstra's time in Los Angeles County Jail put him in close quarters with some of the most dangerous inmates, including those affiliated with the Mexican Mafia, one of the most notorious prison gangs in the United States. During his incarceration, he developed a connection with Isaac Pedroza, a former member of the Lomas gang who had successfully appealed a life sentence. Pedroza assisted Dickstra in maintaining communication with the outside world, and after their release, Dickstra repaid the favor by offering Pedroza resources, including a U-Haul and financial assistance. In 2018, Dickstra made headlines again when he was arrested for allegedly holding a gun to an Uber driver's head after the driver refused to change routes. Dickstra's alleged connections with an active gang appear to stem from circumstantial relationships formed in prison, but they have nonetheless contributed to the mystery and controversy surrounding his post-MLB life. Apart from Dickstra, there is another player caught in a string of crimes, leading to speculations that he might be a gang member. Kevin Mitchell. Raised by his grandmother, Josie Whitfield, in a challenging environment, Mitchell was exposed to gang culture from a young age. He has admitted to associations with gang members during his youth and even claimed to have been shot 3 times. Tragically, his stepbrother Donald lost his life in a gang-related altercation. Despite these hardships, Mitchell's athletic prowess shone through. Encouraged by his grandmother, he attended a New York Mets-sponsored tryout in 1980, where his impressive performance led to a professional contract. Debuting with the Mets in 1984, Mitchell quickly showcased his versatility by playing multiple positions and contributing significantly to the team's 1986 World Series victory. However, Mitchell's past continued to cast a shadow over his career. Authorities believed he was affiliated with the Pierrules, a gang that dominated the skyline area of southeast San Diego. This association subjected him to ongoing police scrutiny, including frequent stops and searches. Mitchell expressed frustration over this treatment. Throughout his MLB tenure, his temper and off-field incidents often made headlines. In 1991, he was investigated for rape in Chula Vista, California. However, no charges were filed. In 1999, he faced arrest for assaulting his father during a dispute. His managerial stint with the Sonoma County Crushers in 2000 was marred by a suspension after he punched an opposing team's owner. A decade later, in 2010, Mitchell was arrested for misdemeanor battery at a golf club, leading to community service and mandatory anger management classes. Despite these controversies, Mitchell earned 2 All-Star selections and was named the National League MVP in 1989 while playing for the San Francisco Giants. That season, he led the league with 47 home runs and 125 RBIs, solidifying his reputation as a formidable power hitter. Even with his struggles and tumultuous past, there is no concrete evidence that he was a part of any gang, and the final player on the list faced a long suspension for violating MLB's drug policy and legal troubles over steroid allegations. Miguel Tejada. Tejada's journey from the impoverished streets of Bani, Dominican Republic, to Major League Baseball stardom is a testament to his resilience and determination. Born into a large family facing economic hardships, Tejada's early life was marked by adversity. His mother passed away when he was 13, and he left school to work and support his family. Amid these challenges, baseball became his refuge and passion. At 14, Tejada began training under coach Enrique Soto, a former minor league player and scout for the Oakland Athletics. Soto's mentorship was pivotal, providing Tejada with the guidance and opportunity to pursue a professional baseball career. In 1993, Tejada signed a modest $2,000 contract with the Oakland Athletics. Despite his small stature and unremarkable scouting reports, his relentless work ethic and determination propelled him through the minor leagues. However, his legacy took a major hit when off-field controversies overshadowed his achievements. In 2013, Tejada received a stunning 105-game suspension, one of the longest in MLB history at the time, for violating the league's drug policy. He had tested positive for amphetamines, a substance banned during games but sometimes allowed with a medical exemption. Fans questioned why he was permitted to take the medication in the off-season. The drama didn't stop there. Tejada also faced scrutiny from Congress over allegations of perjury related to the 2005 steroid scandal. While testifying, he denied any involvement with performance-enhancing drugs, only for the Mitchell report to later reveal contradicting evidence. The U.S. Justice Department considered legal action, sparking rumors that Tejada's downfall wasn't just about baseball, it was about deeper connections and hidden truths. Despite his legal troubles and controversial career, there has never been any verified evidence linking him to gang activity. While rumors have surfaced online, they appear to be based on speculation rather than fact. Click the cards that appear on your screen for more videos from us.